we know that Israel and Palestine relationships are not good at all, and there are like many countries and international agencies too. They are trying to create a pressure over Israel. Last time, if not with you, but I think with the Hindi medium students, my lecture was there, and there also we discussed that ICC recently issued an arrest warrant for, or you can say against, Benjamin Netanyahu. And here also ICJ, that is International Court of Justice. So one is ICJ, International Court of Justice, and one is ICC, International Criminal Court. Difference क्या अभी देखेंगे last slide में, but यहाँ पर ICJ has mandated Israel to cease its military operation in Rafah. And this Rafah place is very much in news. In last to last class, I have taught this topic in detail, Rafah. तभी हम उसको discuss नहीं कर रहे because many of you were there and some of you who are watching like these classes for the very first time, आप लोग नहीं थे, but हाँ, the PPT is available. PPT आप जरूर देख लीजिएगा. So Rafah को हमने detail में discuss किया था. I think we took around 20 to 30 minutes, rather even more, to understand this. ठीक है. हाँ, और I think YouTube के ऊपर भी this video जो है वो डाला गया. This video is available now. तो देख लीजिएगा. The International Court of Justice has mandated Israel to cease its military operation. So Hamas attacked Israel, and of course retaliation happened from the Israeli side as well, and they were killing some of the Hamas terrorists, but at the same time they were in this process the innocent Palestinians were also killed, and that's why United Nations and many other agencies including United States also recommended, or you can say gave the guidance to or guidelines to Israelis that you should not attack Rafah, because हो क्या रहा है कि you are in basically killing Hamas or the Hamas terrorist in your language, but in this process you are also killing the innocent Palestinians. ठीक है, ये सभी को पता है, ये चीज़ हो रही है. Now Rafah city is also important for Israelis because Hamas attacked first, and Hamas terrorists attacked Israelis, and some of the innocent Israelis also killed. So here Benjamin Netanyahu said कि now since they started it, we are going to make sure that we are going to end all their battalions. So Rafah is the last city in Gaza Strip. तो मैं थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे बना के दिखा देता हूँ, even though हमारी न्यूज़ छोटी सी है. So if this is the Gaza Strip, ठीक है, Rafah is the city here. This is Rafah. Sometimes also referred as Rafah crossing. और इसके बाद क्या शुरू हो जाता है? इजिप्ट. ठीक है, ये क्या है ऊपर? West Bank. Now these two regions, Palestinians are living here. Remaining area, Israelis are living here. So when Hamas attacked Israelis, Israelis retaliated and they killed some of the battalions of Hamas. But then Hamas, some of the battalions of Hamas, they started moving in the southern direction to save their lives. But Israeli said कि if we allow them to hide in Rafah, then they will reorganize, they will regroup themselves, and probably after few months or maybe after few years, they are going to attack us again. And hence here the head of the state decided कि we will enter in this area and we are going to end the remaining battalions. ठीक है, अब देखो, when you are killing the people who attacked you, you are killing the terrorists who attacked you, then that is fine. But the problem is if the army is entering into this area where you can say the civilians are also living, then the casualty will happen, the collateral will happen, and you might end up killing the innocent civilians too, right? And that's why many people said that you should not enter Rafah. The reason is that you might be killing Hamas, but at the end of the day, the civilians will also get killed. That's why US suggested Israelis don't do it. UN also suggested don't do it. ICC and ICJ also said don't do it. ठीक है, उसी को लेकर ये न्यूज़ है. चलिए, now ICJ ruling demands Israel to stop all the military actions in Rafah. क्यों कर रहे हैं? अभी बताया मैंने आपको, because you might end up killing few terrorists or you might end up killing few people who attacked your country, but at the same time you might end up also killing the thousands of innocent people there. ठीक है, ICJ also ordered Israel to ensure unimpeded access to UN mandated investigators to look into the allegations of genocide जो यहाँ पर उनके ऊपर लगाए जा रहे हैं. अब ICJ जो है इसको लेकर क्यों है? बेसिकली ICJ के पास ये राइट होगा, तभी तो देखते हैं ये है क्या. इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस इज द प्रिंसिपल जुडिशियल ऑर्गन ऑफ द यूनाइटेड नेशन. हियर आर द की पॉइंट्स अबाउट ICJ. एस्टैब्लिशमेंट कब हुआ? 1945. दे स्टार्टेड वर्किंग इन 1946, द वेरी नेक्स्ट ईयर. लोकेशन कहाँ पर है? बोथ ICC एंड ICJ दे आर लोकेटेड इन नेदरलैंड, हेग. कंपोजिशन क्या है? 15 जजेस इलेक्टेड फॉर 9-year टर्म्स बाय द यूएन जनरल असेंबली एंड द सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. ठीक है, सो कौन सिलेक्ट करता है? यूएन, जीए एंड यूएनएससी, जिसमें परमानेंट सीट की हम बात करते हैं. वी आर लुकिंग फॉर परमानेंट सीट इन यूएनएससी. ICJ has two primary functions. The first one is setting legal disputes submitted by states. Because देखिए, in the country when two states they are at loggerheads with each other, they are in dispute with each other, तो क्या होता है? Such cases are managed by Supreme Court. ठीक है, अगर कंट्री में there are two states, they are fighting with each other, the matter will be resolved by Supreme Court. But let's say two countries are at loggerheads with each other, they are fighting with each other, or there is any dispute between two countries, who is going to manage that? In that case, you need a court which of course is over and above the Supreme Court. In this case means any entity which is outside the state. So here that matter is referred to ICJ. ठीक है, now ये काम है लीगल डिस्प्यूट को देखने का. इसके साथ साथ गिविंग एडवाइजरी ओपिनियंस ऑन लीगल क्वेश्चंस रेफर टू इट बाय ऑथराइज्ड यूएन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, स्पेशलाइज्ड एजेंसी. सो whenever something is referred and some question is asked, there also they provide solution. Some question is asked, वहां पर भी क्या करते हैं? कुछ ना कुछ आंसर देते हैं. ठीक है, नाउ द जजमेंट्स ऑफ ICJ आर बाइंडिंग ऑन द पार्टीज इन्वॉल्वड इन द केस इफ द पार्टीज अप्रोच. लेट्स से ए और बी पहुंचे इनके पास कि दिस इज आवर मैटर, प्लीज सोल्व दिस. ठीक है, सो व्हेन व्हाटएवर वर्डिक्ट दे आर गोइंग टू गिव, दैट विल बी बाइंडिंग ऑन दीज इंडिविजुअल्स. हाउएवर, ICJ lacks direct enforcement power and its ruling rely on United Nations Security Council for enforcement. ठीक है, so here enforcement के लिए they are dependent on UN Security Council, United Nations Security Council. Main task क्या है? Whenever the international dispute happens among various countries, that is resolved by them. इनकी अपनी एक ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज भी है, तो यूजुअली बेसिकली whenever the proceedings happen, it happens in English or French. ठीक है, ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज क्या है? इंग्लिश, फ्रेंच. आप एक तरीके से सोचिएगा, इट्स अ कोर्ट ओवर एंड अबव द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जुरिडिक्शन कितनी है? एट इंडिया लेवल ओनली. ठीक है, सिमिलरली द सुप्रीम कोर्ट इन अदर कंट्रीज, देयर जुरिडिक्शन विल बी कन्फाइंड टू देयर ओन कंट्रीज. बट व्हाट इफ टू कंट्रीज आर इन्वॉल्व्ड? इन दैट केस क्या होगा? देन ICJ विल कम इनटू पिक्चर. दैट्स व्हाई वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ICJ, व्हिच ऑफ कोर्स इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. कहां पर लोकेट करती है वो भी मैंने आपको बता दिया. रोल क्या है? वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस दैट. अब बात आती है कि हाउ इट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम ICC. सो इट इज क्वाइट एन ओल्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, 1945 में बनी थी. बट ICC, क्योंकि कंफ्यूजन होता है इनके नामों को लेकर, ICC इज रिलेटिवली न्यू, 2002 में बनाया था. ICJ इज अ पार्ट ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशन. दैट्स वाई एनफोर्समेंट के लिए देयर इज एन अप्रूवल ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. इवन द जजेस विच आर सिलेक्टेड, वो भी कहां से आते हैं? अप्रूवल UNGA एंड UNSC. ठीक है, it is not the part of UN. However, they are located at the same place, The Hague. When two states are concerned, two member states are concerned, if we are talking about Israel, ICJ will come into picture. When we talk about individual, when we talk about Benjamin Netanyahu, means individual is involved, then ICC will come into picture. So let's say when we talk about Israel and Palestine, कौन आएगा बीच में? ICJ. When we talk about one person, let's say there is a terrorist in an organization, or let's say there is an armed personnel, or there is an army major, or there is an let's say a person at a very powerful position, a leader or an authoritarian ruler, some verdict needs to be given on that person. वो कहाँ पर आएगा? That person will be under ICC, because individual related cases are managed by ICC. But when we talk about the states, ICJ is there. टाइप्स ऑफ केसेस कैसे हैं? लीगल डिस्प्यूट्स देखे जाते हैं. हेयर प्रोसिक्यूशन ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल. इसमें अपील होती है? नहीं. इसमें अपील होती है? यस. एनफोर्समेंट के लिए याद करिए यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. हियर इफ यू वांट टू एनफोर्स समथिंग, द कोऑपरेशन फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर कंट्री इज required. So let's say if today you issue a warrant to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, that will happen only if that country, means the country of Israel, cooperates with you. Otherwise you will not be able to serve or enforce that arrest warrant. ठीक है.